All you haters, get at me. And I hear ya. And I'm watching. Man. ETM Hotel. Brittany Sean, welcome in peace. My name is Sean. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into this episode of Science with Sean. Please like the show, share the show. Tell a friend, we are live. The topic of concern today is dealing with myocarditis. We talked about this before, but it continues to come back, resurface. I'll say this. This conversation pretty much was led by a sister that responded to the interview with a Sars on the Sars channel. And Akinye. And she was pretty much asking about myocarditis. Was, did I touch her? That in the book. And I wanted to kind of clear the air for her because she was going by what Dr. Campbell was saying on his YouTube channel, talking about there needs to be some type of vaccine aspirations. And, last night when we were live, talking about Omicron, you know what I mean? We had our brother was in the chat and he was saying some of the similar things about Omicron. And our brother AK-47. So we wanted to kind of get that clear and kind of put an end to that whole perspective, that outlook. And just to be honest, man, people since the mandate has came out, man, it's kind of been one of them weird things. Just to be, that's the heart of it. At the root of this is all about the mandate, finding a way, right, to not get vaccinated, coming up with a weak excuse. So what we're going to do today is we're going to get into the heart and the root of the science regarding myocarditis. And before we do, though, I need everybody who's watching to like the show, share the show, tell a friend, tell a friend. I know Saul's still live and he's talking about the alpha male stuff, but I'm not going to be all day and I didn't want to stay up any longer than I needed to on present this information. So like the show, share the show. And everybody who's had an issue with someone who got into this field or dealing with this particular topic, bring them on. So I'm going to play a quick intro video and then we're going to get it cracking.
You looking at a young black king. Astro project, blast of attack, pass your neck with the shit to leave a rapper erect from the back of a black Acura. Bullet ricocheted and it's weight and it passed through your pecs. The assassin wet. All y'all know y'all don't have to go. Sawed off shoddy, make you potty, probably call the law. Me no gangster, I'm no tough, got me child of the most high. I get on the mic and you go, bye-bye. Devil don't test me, I throw shrapnel where your chest be. Shooting our family down in the streets. Fuck the police, they ain't marching for me. Pull up, not that Rari, I ain't bad yet. I pull up, out that 85% of mass at. I put this on God, bad black is so hard. Bitch, I'm going back to Harlem in my West African garb.
Shout out to Fortune. You looking at a young black king. Let's go, man. Some people will catch the replay, some won't, some, it is what it is. But I'm live right now. We cooking. So I'm gonna slow walk us through this misunderstand myocarditis. Why this is why people misunderstand. When I put this title like this for a reason. Hold on 1 second before we get it going. Okay. All right, so everybody could pretty much see the video. All right, you can see my screen pretty good. Cool. All right, so here's our outline today. We're dealing with myocarditis. We're going to go through the introduction. Of course, you got some research questions, hypothesis, definitions, argument, conclusion, and sources. It's a good picture right there of SARS-CoV-2 preying on the heart, as you can see. Now, myocarditis has become a major issue in many online settings. People have begun to use the potential risk of myocarditis as a way to say that people are not properly administering vaccine dosage. Some have called for aspirations, like Dr. John Campbell. Subscribers have heard him mention this numerous times and are taking his word that this is a serious offense. Today, we will review the data, sorry about the typo, and see which way it leads us. So here's our research questions. For one, what is myocarditis? Should there be a need for vaccine aspirations? Are COVID-19 vaccines causing myocarditis? Should we be concerned with myocarditis? Bobby Hemming gang. Now, hold up real quick. Let me show y'all real quick before we get to it. It wasn't necessarily his comment. It's just his comment was fed off of another comment that I need to show you. Right here. This is what led to it right here, pretty much. She says, I appreciate the interview and the fact that Sean looks to science and debunks so much misinformation in regards to SARS-CoV-2. But where there is risk, there should be a choice. People need to sensibly access risk and consider taking the vaccine if they are elderly, overweight, have asthma, diabetes, or any underlying health conditions. Let me stop right there. Right? She says, right here is where I have a problem with a few things that she says. But she's saying people need to be sensible and access the risk and consider taking the vaccine if they are. She's saying if you are elderly, overweight, have asthma, diabetes, underlying health conditions, you should get the vaccine. So what about the healthy people? They shouldn't get the vaccine because healthy people, it's killing healthy people too. It's killing kids, teenagers, young adults. It's killing everybody. So only the people who fall under these categories should, you know what I mean? It's no disrespect to her, but only the people in these categories listed should get the vaccine. Then she says here it goes. But if you are a healthy person exercising and eating a non-processed, human-appropriate omnivore diet, the person Sean describes eating leaves and straight up veggies, no meat or fish, was eating an oxalate-filled, nutritional deficient diet, lacking vitamin D3, B12, and zinc, all linked to poor COVID-19 outcomes. And just because he was in the gym every day did not make him healthy. May he rest in peace. All right. She says you should have a choice if you have a strong enough immune system to fight the virus. How do you know that your immune system is strong enough to fight a novel virus it's never encountered before. And then if you choose not to get vaccinated, you should not be labeled anti-vaccine. I would be interested to know if Sean's book addresses vaccine injury and the argument for aspiration before injecting the vaccine. Thank you both. So, I kind of dealt with it. This pretty much led me to In the Direction Sutek. So once I pretty much was notified by, I saw that there's a comment that on the thing that I may need to address, or if I found time to address, that I should look at. And of course, we want to make sure that we give them people what they're asking for. So I said the person I described, no matter the diet, wouldn't be protected against SARS-CoV-2, period. No particular diet, supplement, etc. stops anyone from catching a virus and a disease consuming you. Now, I want to be clear on that. And then I said zinc, vitamin C, vitamin D all fail to prevent the spread of disease. Controlled trials prove this. No link found to show it. Any of that helped, and that information is in my book. And then as far as the vaccine injury and aspirations, has no place in my book. Why? Because the vaccine injuries are compensated easily through 2 acts. However, one can falsely claim a vaccine injury to cry wolf. You have the National Vaccine Injury compensation program that awards on 2 grounds, but with the new mRNA vaccine, rewards are stricter and not easily compensated. Out of 200 million people vaccinated, you haven't heard of such claims, but no, it's in presentations I've done, not the book. All right, so and then I give it a vaccine injury claim information from an actual officer. So from a law office. For anyone that's unfamiliar with this, all right, during 2020, the physical year, there was 1,037 claims were filed with the National Vaccine Injury Compensation. Go look at how many people were vaccinated. This is not COVID. This is just not for COVID. Go look, because the majority of the people who just got the mRNA vaccines was 2021. The pandemic started in early. So you see what I'm saying? Like, think about that. So she responds and then does whatever she says there. She says, I don't have expectations with vitamin D, zinc, etc. will prevent the spread of the virus, but the infectious outcome. The conclusions of the below study was, and see, I didn't really address her studies. I just kind of blew this away because I told her in the book I dealt with this, and this is not an actual outcome. Okay, in my book, I have the actual outcomes related to this whole vitamin D, zinc, and all of that argument. All right. So she continues to say the things that she said. And then I was like, myocarditis is more common with natural infection than vaccination. So this was the cause of the actual thing. I didn't want to continue to go back and forth. I wanted to actually educate the sister on the subject matter. So it wasn't just necessarily our brother AAA-K. It was also the sister. And then people who keep on rehashing this whole myocarditis argument. So pretty much, if you're just now joining the conversation and joining the show, I haven't started the presentation yet, but we're about to get to it right now. It's a little hot in here. All right. Maybe that'll help. So again, what is myocarditis? Should there be a need for vaccine aspirations? Those were 2 of her concerns. Are COVID-19 vaccines causing myocarditis? And should we become concerned with myocarditis? Let's eat. Since the emergence of COVID-19 vaccines and its rare case disclosures, people have begun to mimic this notion that myocarditis is being triggered by the way nurses are administering the vaccines. Now, it seems that myocarditis has become a problem the closer we got to the vaccine mandates. I am of the belief that people do not know how common myocarditis is in our population and that this is not some new phenomenon. Also, aspirations as it relates to COVID-19 vaccines wouldn't make a difference. It's my hypothesis. So let me ground my argument. 2 key definitions in this bill that we need to make sure that we're aware of. First, what is myocarditis? Myocarditis is an inflammation of the heart muscle. The inflammation can reduce the heart's ability to pump and cause rapid or irregular heart rhythms. And then aspirations is defined as the pulling back of the plunger of a syringe for 5 to 10 seconds prior to injecting medicine in the arm. All right. Now, there's some more information in regard to aspirations and how it should be administered. And we're going to get in those later on in this particular conversation. So, myocarditis was discovered as a heart disease at autopsy with the use of a microscope. Now, in 1900, yes, 100 years ago, 120 years ago, 21, 22 soon to be. Now, 120 years ago, with the name of acute interstitial myocarditis, Carl Ludwig Alfred Fiedler first reported the history of sudden cardiac heart failure in the absence of coronary valve pericardial disease. I always mess that up. Or classical specific infections with multi-organ involvement. He postulated a peculiar isolated acute inflammation of the myocardium with poor prognosis due to invisible microorganisms, which years later would have been identified as viruses. So 120 years ago, Carl Ludwig Alfred Fiedler, right, via an autopsy, using a microscope during an autopsy, noticed that a particular virus caused myocarditis in a patient 120 years ago. Okay. Now, subsequent revisions of Fiedler's original histologic slides by Schommel show cases with either lymphocytic or giant cell infiltrates. The in vivo diagnosis became possible with the right heart cateterism and endomyocardial biopsy. Employment of immune histochemistry and molecular techniques improved the diagnosis of etiology identification. Okay, so we have someone discovering a patient 120 years ago, heart issues that was triggered and caused by a virus. Okay, this would be known as myocarditis later on. So we need to know the history of myocarditis. Now we have the first basically known or recognized cause of myocarditis, or discovery of myocarditis in a patient. Now, the mechanism of myocyte injury by Coxsackie virus was identified in prostheses 2A coded by the virus and disrupting the dystrophin in the cytoskeleton. Both RNA and DNA viruses may be cardiotropic, and Coxsackie and adenoviruses share a common receptor. That's what the CAR means, CAR, common receptor. Now, let me say this again. So adenoviruses, right, can cause myocarditis. Okay, so just so y'all know that. Now, unfortunately, vaccination is not yet available. Cardiac magnetic resonance is a revolutionary diagnostic tool by detecting edema, a myocardial inflammation. However, endomyocardial biopsy remains the gold standard for etiological and histotype diagnosis, with limited sensitivity due to sampling error. Viral lymphocytic fulminant myocarditis may not be fatal, in the employment of mechanical assistance device, ECMO, in acute phase for temporary support may be life-saving with good prognosis. If you're on an ECMO machine, you're almost on your way out of here. Most people don't want to be in that if it's COVID related. However, in treating severe issue right here, ECMO can be a game changer. Myocarditis occurs when the heart muscle becomes inflamed. When your heart muscle is inflamed, it can affect your heart's electrical system. This can cause arrhythmia or a rapid or abnormal heartbeat. Myocarditis can cause the heart muscle to weaken and can lead to cardiomyopathy. So there are several different types of myocarditis, and here are some examples. You have acute myocarditis, which is described relatively recent or fast onset of myocarditis and is usually caused by a viral infection. Acute myocarditis can develop suddenly, and symptoms may resolve rapidly as well. Then you have chronic myocarditis. It is when it takes longer than usual to treat the disease or when symptoms reappear after experiencing the condition. This can occur due to more general inflammatory conditions such as autoimmune disorders, in which your immune system attacks healthy cells and tissues in your body. Then you have lymphocytic myocarditis. It is a rare form of myocarditis that can result in hospitalizations for acute care. It occurs when white blood cells, lymphocytes, enter and cause inflammation of the heart muscle. This condition can occur after a virus. Now, infections with a virus usually cause myocarditis. I'm going to say that again. Infections with a virus usually causes myocarditis. Sometimes myocarditis can result from a reaction to a drug or be a part of a more general inflammatory condition. Signs and symptoms of myocarditis include chest pain, fatigue, shortness of breath, and rapid or irregular heartbeats. Severe myocarditis weakens the heart so that the rest of the body doesn't get enough blood. Clots can form in the heart, leading to a stroke or heart attack. Treatment for myocarditis depends on the cause. Often the cause of myocarditis isn't identified. There are many potential causes, but the risk of developing myocarditis is rare. Potential causes of myocarditis include viruses, bacteria, parasites, and fungi. Many viruses are commonly associated with myocarditis, including the viruses that causes the common cold, adenoviruses. I told y'all this. COVID-19, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, parvoviruses, which causes a mild rash, usually in children, fifth disease, and herpes simplex virus, gastrointestinal infections, echoviruses, mononucleosis, Epstein-Barr viruses, and German measles, rubella also can cause myocarditis. It's also common in people with HIV, the virus that causes AIDS. So real quick, just in regard to viruses that causes myocarditis, that's adenovirus, COVID, hepatitis B and C, parvoviruses. Now, remember, they vaccinate against a lot of these things that causes myocarditis. All right. But what is key here is that you see the Epstein-Barr virus, right? And then MMR. Like, think about it. Come on, man. First of all, you don't even want all these viruses that they listed. I mean, you might want to take your chances with the common cold. So just think about it. You can have this type of reaction from the common cold. I'm going to say that again. You can have a common cold and it can trigger myocarditis in your body. Just a common cold, ladies and gentlemen. The hell with COVID. The common cold can trigger it. Now, bacteria. Bacteria that can cause myocarditis include Staphylococcus, Streptococcus. I can't say them names. The bacterium that causes diphtheria, and tick-borne bacterium responsible for Lyme disease. Now, as far as parasites, among these are such parasites of Trypanosoma cruzi or Toxoplasma, including some of that. Hold on one second. That are transmitted by insects and can cause a condition called Chagas disease. Chagas disease is much more common in Central and South America. than in the United States, but it can occur in travelers and in immigrants from part of the world. And then, of course, fungi. You got yeast infections, ladies. Yeast infections can cause myocarditis. All right, now you have the such as the Canidae molds, such as the Aspergillus, and other fungi such as Hippodyplasma, often found in bird droppings, can sometimes cause myocarditis, particularly in people with weakened immune systems. Now, usually myocarditis goes away with permanent complications, without permanent complications. However, severe myocarditis can permanently damage your heart muscle, possibly causing heart failure, heart attack, or stroke, rapid or irregular heart rhythms, and sudden cardiac death. Now, as far as heart failure, untreated myocarditis can damage your heart muscles so that it can't pump blood effectively. In severe cases, myocarditis related heart failure may require a ventricular assistance device or a heart transplant. As far as heart attacks and strokes, if your heart muscle is injured and can't pump blood, the blood that collects in your heart can form clots. If a clot blocks one of your heart's arteries, you can have a heart attack. If a blood clot in your heart travels to an artery leading to your brain, you could have a stroke. As far as rapid or irregular heart rhythms, damage to your heart muscle can cause arrhythmia. Now, as far as sudden cardiac death, certain serious arrhythmias can cause your heart to just stop beating. And then sudden cardiac arrest is deadly if not treated immediately. My bad. Let me get back to it. All right. So there's no specific prevention for myocarditis. However, taking these steps to prevent infections might help. Avoid people who have a viral or flu-like illness until they've recovered. If you're sick with symptoms or of a viral infection, try to avoid exposing others. Follow good hygiene. Regular hand washing can help prevent spreading illnesses. Avoid risky behaviors to reduce your chances of getting HIV-related myocardial infection. Practice safe sex and don't use illegal drugs. Minimize your exposure to ticks. If you spend time in tick-infested areas, wear long sleeve shirts and long pants to cover as much of your skin as possible. Apply tick or insect repellents that contain DEET. Get your vaccines. Stay up to date on the recommended vaccines, including those protected against COVID-19, rubella, and influenza disease that can cause myocarditis. Rarely, the COVID-19 vaccine can cause inflammation of the heart muscle. Rarely, and inflammation of the other heart lining, especially in males of ages 12 through 17. Talk to your healthcare provider about the benefits and risk of vaccines. Myocarditis and COVID-19. I think black men should be forced to take the vaccine if they talk smack about my founding fathers. Gregory, yeah, you a troll all the way. I don't even know who approved that comment. Slap yourself. All right, so what you're looking at right here is an image of the reactions of myocarditis in an individual. Right, this is basically a 3D image. Now, in children from ages 0 to 18, myocarditis is typically rare, with 0.8 cases per 100,000 children over the course of a year. However, myocarditis isn't a consistent risk for children. First, it's more common in males. They make up about 66% of the cases, and the risk is also bimodal with age. That is, infants younger than 1 have the highest cases of myocarditis. Then the numbers fall to low levels into toddlerhood and rise again in early adolescence, with the next highest incident of cases between the ages of 15 and 18. Moving into adulthood, the incidence of myocarditis essentially falls from 20 onward, but males continue to make up the majority of the cases, 76%. It's unclear what causes this biomodal incident and the higher rates in males. So here we're going to take a look at a CDC graph. which all epidemiologists, virologists, and immunologists have, and even the public, right? So we're looking at it in children, as stated above. You have the 0.8 per 100,000. And as you can see, based on the age groups in chart number 1 on the left-hand side, myocarditis hospitalizations, you see it from 0. It goes up to like 16%. Then it drops all the way down per age group at the bottom. Per age group at the bottom gives you an alignment. And then we go to chart number 2, which shows you the myocarditis patients per age group. And you see 15 years old being the leader, and then 20, and then 25, 30, and then 35 as it goes down, 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 the older you get. All right. Now it says, as far as adults, it gradually decreases in incidence with age, 76% of males. As you can see, the women, though, they don't have this issue. And I find it quite unique that a sister was asking about myocarditis, and she's less susceptible of even, it's just really, really, really super rare. Now, we're going to find out how rare. Now, in data collected through a June 11, the CDC had preliminary reports of 1,226 myocarditis cases from all age groups vaccinated after about 300 million mRNA COVID-19 vaccine doses was administered. So out of 300 million vaccine doses administered, there was only 1,226 myocarditis or pericarditis cases mentioned or reported. Sorry, not mentioned. Now, as preliminary reports, the cases of myocarditis and pericarditis are not confirmed. So I'm going to go back again. So these 1,226 cases were not confirmed cases, and neither is any link to the vaccine dose. So, ladies and gentlemen, out of the reported cases that were unconfirmed, they still had no link to the vaccine. From those preliminary reports, the cases largely mirrored what scientists have seen with myocarditis before. The highest incidence of cases occurred in people between the ages of 16 and 19-year-old, all of them being, you know who, males. I ain't even got to go that far. We just stressed that in the last slide. We knew the cases were more prominent in males. That we know. Females is like, it don't bother y'all. Okay, so the majority of the cases overall, again, was in males. All right, so to back that up, we have the preliminary reports of myocarditis, pericarditis to VAERS after mRNA COVID-19 vaccines by age and dose. This report out of June 11, 2021. In the blue, we have the dose 1. In the red, we have the dose 2. The preliminary reports are on the left-hand side of the graph. And then you have the age of the reported patient years at the bottom of the graph. As you can see, between the ages of 16 and 19 years old, as stated in the last slide, we see the highest cases. Other than that, the numbers drop tremendously, right? Okay, you only see it higher in 20 and 23-year-olds, and then it's going down again. But you know, and that's after the second dose, not the first dose. Because if you look at the first dose numbers, the numbers are low, very low. They're below 5, okay? In the age groups, there's only one over the age of 18 that gets close to, that's right around 12 to 15. Everywhere else, they're super low. But after the second dose, there's more reports. All right. Preliminary report number 2. The age, the time from vaccination to symptom onset days is at the bottom. The preliminary reports are on the left-hand side. You have dose 1 and then you have dose 2. You go through the days. The cases were within the first 3 days. Just like they say with your side effects and your symptoms after you get the vaccine. Most people have a reaction after the second dose. Some had it at the first and then didn't have it at the second. Some had it at the second but didn't have it at the first. Like me, I ain't had no reaction after the first dose, just pain at the injection site. My arm was stiff, but I worked it out. But that second dose, shoot, I was going through the ringer a little bit, not even gonna lie. But I still worked my shift and toughed out my day. But here we go. Within the first 72 hours or 96, some people want to add. You can go 96. There you go. You have it right there. Now, for vaccine-specific data, the cases were more common after the second dose of an mRNA vaccine and tended to occur within a window of 4 days after the second shot. Comparing case rates by vaccine administration, Moderna versus Pfizer, is tricky because the Moderna vaccine is only available for people ages 18 and up. Turning to a risk-benefit analysis, the CDC scientists modeled out the estimated rates of myocarditis and the benefits of a highly effective COVID-19 vaccine in different groups. Even in the group with the highest rate of myocarditis, males between the ages of 12 and 17, the vaccine looked better. So here we go. Females 12 to 17, you only had 8 to 10 myocarditis cases. 8,500 COVID-19 cases prevented. This is with the vaccine, of course. 183 hospitalizations prevented. 38 ICU admissions prevented. 1 death prevented. Males 12 to 17, you see the myocarditis cases was 56 to 69 cases. But there was 5,700 COVID cases prevented, 215 hospitalizations prevented, 71 ICU admissions prevented, 2 deaths prevented. And this is predicted cases prevented versus myocarditis cases for every million second dose vaccinations over 120 days. And there's like 8 million people under the age of 18 is vaccinated. Well, 18 and younger. Now, for every batch of 1 million second doses of an mRNA vaccine given to males between the ages of 12 to 17, the shots are estimated to prevent 5,700 COVID-19 cases, 215 hospitalizations, 71 ICU admissions, and 2 deaths. Meanwhile, there would be an estimated 59 to 69 myocarditis cases in the group. So this is for every million batches of the second dose. So 1 million people would get a second dose between the ages of 12 and 17, and you would only yield between 59 and 69 myocarditis cases in the group. It's very rare. Now, the picture only gets rosier in the older groups. For males ages 24 to 29, every batch of 1 million second doses would prevent 15,000 COVID cases, 936 hospitalizations, 215 ICU admissions, and 13 deaths. Meanwhile, there would be an estimated 15 to 18 cases of myocarditis in the group. All right. So between the ages of 24 and 29, for every million batches, you would get 15 to 18. You see the odds? Now, the facts are clear. This is an extremely rare side effect, and only an exceedingly small number of people will experience it after vaccination. Importantly, for the young people who do, most cases are mild and individuals recover often on their own or with minimal treatment. We strongly encourage everyone ages 12 and younger who are eligible to receive the vaccine under emergency use authorization to get vaccinated, as the benefit of vaccination far outweigh any harm, especially with troubling Delta variant increasingly circulating and more readily impacting younger people. The risk of being unvaccinated are far greater than any rare side effect from the vaccine. Getting vaccinated right away is the best way to protect yourself, your loved ones, your community, and to return to a more normal lifestyle safely and quicker. Myocarditis is 16 times higher risk of patients who've been infected with COVID-19. So for those of you who have not caught this virus, who've not been infected by this virus, right? You versus the people who have are 16 times more likely to have myocarditis. That's just a science. Now, I'm about to expound on this. The age adjustment weekly COVID-19 associated hospitalization rates among adults, 18 years by week of admission. I want you to look at this. This is the rate per 100,000 population. These people that you see here are not vaccinated at the top line. This is per 100,000 people. And then the people in the green are the vaccinated people. And just look at the cases from January the 30th of 2021 all the way through July 24th, 2021. Very, very low. Those are the fully vaccinated people at that bottom line right there, while the unvaccinated people are trending when it comes to myocarditis. This is how we know the risk of myocarditis is 16 times higher in the unvaccinated group than it is the vaccinated group. We're afforded the protection. So the whole notion of myocarditis, why get vaccinated or looking for an outlet, like, yo, like for real? Come on now. Now, reports have suggested an association between the development of myocarditis and the recipient of mRNA vaccines against coronavirus 2019. But the frequency of severity of myocarditis after vaccinations have not been extensively explored. We searched the database of Klet Health Services, the largest healthcare organization in Israel, for diagnosis of myocarditis in patients who have received at least one dose of Pfizer's mRNA vaccine. The diagnosis of myocarditis was educated by cardiologists using the case definition used by the CDC in prevention. We abstracted the presentation, clinical courses, and outcome from patients' electronic health record. We performed a Kaplan-Meier analysis of our incident of myocarditis up to 42 days after the first dose. And then among more than 2.5 million vaccinated at the HCO members who were 16 years of age or older, 54 cases met the criteria for myocarditis. Out of 2.5 million vaccinated, there was 54 cases that met the criteria of myocarditis. Now, the estimated incidence per 100,000 persons who had received at least one dose of the vaccine was 2.3 cases. The highest incidence of myocarditis was 10.69 cases per 100,000. Was reported in the male patients between the ages of 16 and 29. A total of 76% of cases of myocarditis were described as mild and 22% as intermediate. One case was associated with cardiogenetic shock. After a median follow-up of 83 days after the onset of myocarditis, only one patient had been readmitted to the hospital and one had died of an unknown cause after discharge. Of 14 patients who had left ventricular dysfunction or echocardiographic during admissions, 10 still had such dysfunctions at the time of the hospital discharge. Of these patients, 5 underwent subsequent testing that revealed normal heart function. I want to make this very clear because people who misrepresent data will try to use this number here. If you see my arrow on your screen, this total of 76, they will try to use that and say 76% of the people had myocarditis. That is not what the science is saying. It is saying 76% of the kids who actually of the group, right? That 10.69 cases per 100,000. Okay, 76% of those cases were mild. Okay, so if you're talking about 10 kids, so 70% of the 7 people had mild cases per 100,000. Just do your math like that. Now, among patients in a large Israel healthcare system who had received at least one dose of Pfizer's mRNA vaccine, the estimated incidence of myocarditis was 2.3 cases per 100,000. The highest incidence was among male patients between the ages of 16 and 29. Most cases of myocarditis were mild or moderate in severity. And then you see who funded the actual research at the following. Now, myocarditis cases among 2.3 million adults who received an mRNA COVID-19 vaccine after one dose was 2 cases, 13 after the second dose. This is 2.3 million people. So after the second dose, you had 13. So it's 13 for how do you want to break that math up? How you want to break that math up? That's like crazy numbers right there. That's extremely rare. If you're on a calculator right now, you can simply divide that number up. It's super duper rare. Now, benefits and risk after dose 2 by age group, because this is important. So for every million doses of mRNA vaccine given with current U.S. exposure risk, you have COVID-19 associated hospitalizations prevented, and then you have cases of myocarditis on the right-hand side. So in the blue, you have COVID-19 associated hospitalizations per age group, and then cases for myocarditis. If you look, you don't see the numbers moving far right. It's extremely rare. To expound on my point a little bit more, let's look at the benefits and risk after Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccination. At the top, we have females. At the bottom, we have males. We have age groups in the middle from ages 16 to 17, 18 to 24, 25 to 29. So when we look at the cases associated with hospitalizations in the ICU dealing with the actual data, right? You see what you see. But when we look at myocarditis cases in females from 16 to 17, it's only 8 cases. 18 to 24, 3 cases. 25 to 29, 1 case. But the numbers jump in males. You had 73 cases from 16 to 17. You had 39, 18 to 24. 12, 25 to 20 between 25 and 29. So let's go with vaccine aspirations, because that was another thing that the sister hit on. And then that's also what our homeboy, I know he ain't in the chat right now, and I wish he kind of was, AAA K47, mentioned yesterday. So aspirations before injections of vaccines or toxics, i.e. pulling back on the syringe plunger after needle insertion, but before injection, is not necessary because no large blood vessels are present at the recommended injection sites. And a process that includes aspiration might be more painful for infants. For everybody talking about aspirations, Dr. What's his name? What's the doctor name, man? I said his name earlier. Whatever. He's pushing this, right? He's pushing this. However, we don't need it. It's more painful. Everybody in the chat who's had a vaccination, right? Have you seen an immense amount of blood coming out of your arm when you inject it? There's a reason why you don't see an immense amount of blood. They put a Band-Aid over the injection site, and you take the dang on Band-Aid off, and you never see any blood on the Band-Aid. Now, they have rules for administering intramuscular and subcutaneous vaccine injections. Cuteness, I said that wrong. Cutness. All right, so let's deal with it. There's a method for kids between the ages that newborn state, infant state, toddler state, children and adult state. All right, so there's 5 different methods depending on your age group but the needle sizes are interchangeable per newborn, infant, toddler, and children, and then children and adults. All right, depending on where the vaccine is administered. Okay. Now, infants ages 12 below 12 months, for the majority of infants, the anterolateral aspect of the thigh is the recommended site for injection because it provides comparatively larger muscle mass than the deltoid. In certain circumstances, physical obstruction to other sites and no reasonable indication to defer doses, the gluteal muscle can be used. If the gluteal muscle must be used, care should be taken to divine the anatomic landmarks. For the majority of infants, a 1-inch needle is sufficient to penetrate the thigh muscle. Toddlers, ages 12 months to 2 years. For toddlers, the anterolateral thigh muscle is preferred. And when this site is the deltoid muscle can be used if the muscle mass is adequate. If 2 vaccines are to be administered in a single limb, they should be spaced and an inch apart. Children aged 3 to 10 years, the deltoid muscle is preferred. For children ages 3 to 10 years, the needle length for the deltoid site of injection is 5/8 to 1 inch on the basis of technique. The anterolateral thigh can be used. In this case, the needle length should be 1 inch to 1 to 2.5 inches. Knowledge of body mass can be useful for estimating the appropriate needle length. It's more than Dr. Oz. All right, so look, we're going to get into all of that. So I just kind of ran through on how all of these things are going on, and I'm just showing you a little evidence on the screen to show the requirements. So they have a process. They have things in place. They just told us that aspirations are not needed because it could be more painful for children. But these people that are making these claims never saying anything. So again, there's techniques. You have a 90-degree angle and you have a 45-degree angle, depending on how you are administering the vaccine. In the images that you see on the screen, you see the infant, you see the thigh muscle, you see the adult, you see the areas for where they normally would administer it, a shaded place, and so on. And this is if you're using a 45-degree angle. These are the different ways that you actually can inject it. So if you see someone going at a 45-degree angle on your shoulder or something like that, they're putting it at a specific location to where they can angle it up. But if you see it at a 90-degree angle, it's because they're going right on the spot. So young adolescents between the ages of 11 to 18, the deltoid muscle is the preferred measure for adolescents 11 to 18 years of age. The anterolateral thigh can be used for injections into the anterolateral thigh. Most adolescents will require a 1 to 1.5 inch needle to ensure intramuscular administration. As far as adults, as you know, I'm not going to give you all of this, but ages 19 and above, the deltoid muscle is the recommended for routine intramuscular vaccines. The anterolateral thigh can also be used, but when injecting into the deltoid muscle for the adults, a measurement of body mass weight is allowed prior to vaccination. Understanding that resources to measure body mass weight are not available in all clinical settings. For men and women who weigh 130 pounds, then they give you a different size needle. People who weigh more than that, they give you a different size needle. So, Chavis in the chat, he gonna have to use a 1.5 inch needle because he about 260 pounds and he's only 5'2". So his needle length is gonna be a little bit longer, and they're gonna recommend that because the brother got so much gut. His height, weight, body mass is just ridiculous. Now, route of administration, injectable route. SARS-CoV-2 vaccines are administered via intramuscular injection routes of administration are recommended by the manufacturer for each vaccine. Deviation from the recommended route of administration might reduce vaccine efficacy or increase the risk of local adverse reactions. I'm going to run this back to y'all again. If they are not following the route of injection administration, it can cause or lead to a reduction in vaccine efficacy or an increased risk of local adverse reactions. The method of administration of injectable vaccines is determined in part by the inclusion of adjuvants in some vaccines. The decreased risk of local adverse events in activated vaccines containing an adjuvant should be injected into the muscle. Intramuscular injections and injectable vaccines should be administered where local neurovascular or tissue injury is unlikely. Use of longer needles has been associated with less redness or swelling than others with shorter needles because of injection into deeper muscular mass. Appropriate needle length depends on age and body mass. I'm telling you again, when Chavis gets a vaccine, it's got to be the 1.5 because of his height, weight, body mass. Injection technique is the most important parameter to ensure efficient intramuscular vaccine delivery. For all intramuscular injections, the needle should be long enough to reach the muscle mass and prevent vaccine from seeping into subcutaneous tissue, but not so long as to involve underlying nerves, blood vessels, or bone. So for all of y'all talking about blood clots, they know your height, weight, mass. So they're going over here and they're demonstrating this. Vaccinators should be familiar with the anatomy of the area into which they are injecting the vaccine. Intramuscular injections are administered at a 90-degree angle to the skin, preferably into the anterolateral aspect of the thigh or the deltoid muscle of the upper arm, depending on the age of the patient. So if they come administering a vaccine at the wrong angle for you, you now know, like, hold on, I weigh X, Y, and Z. Is that a 1.5-inch needle, or is that a 1-inch needle? Is that a 5/8 right there? Now, where are you administering this vaccine? Are you going in my thigh because of my age, or are you going in my upper arm, or are you hitting me in the buttocks? You need to know these things, right? So that you know that it's being administered properly. Now, for the purposes of SARS-CoV-2 vaccines, it will be in the deltoid muscle. The needle gauge for intramuscular injections is 22 to 25 gauge. They did a 30 gauge on Chavis. Now, a decision on the needle length and site of the injection must be made for each person on the basis of the size of the muscle, the thickness of the adipose tissue, and the injection site, the volume of the material to be administered, injection technique, and the depth below the muscle surface into which the material is to be injected. If the subcutaneous, I can't say the word, and muscle tissue are bunched to minimize the chance of striking bone, a 1-inch needle or larger is required to ensure intramuscular administration. Now, aspiration before injection of vaccine or toxoids, I'm going to say this again, pulling back of the syringe plunger after needle insertion but before injection is not necessary because no large blood vessels are present at the recommended injection sites. I'm going to say that one more time. One more time. All right. One more time. One more time. Aspirations before injections of vaccine or toxoid. The pulling back of the syringe plunger after needle insertion but before injection is not necessary because no large blood vessels are present at the recommended injection site. That's the dagger. Why are we screaming aspirations? It's not recommended because there's no large blood vessels up there in that area. You're less likely to have clotting. It's already rare. It's even more rare. So, based on recent data and training associated with administering vaccine, aspirations are not needed. For anyone who has been vaccinated recently, you could identify immediately if the injection site was compromised. Also, myocarditis, although exists, is rare, especially in individuals who have been vaccinated with mRNA vaccines. In a cohort study of over 2 million people vaccinated, we could see 2.3 cases per 100,000 vaccinated. However, we also saw the COVID-19 infections cause myocarditis at 16 times the rate of vaccinated. It is safe to conclude the reward outweighs the risk, especially when myocarditis has been identified since the early 1900s and is common in viral infections. Pause the video. Check the sources. Pause the video. Check the sources. Pause the video. Check the sources. So there you have it. The true story of myocarditis as it relates to COVID-19 or just viral infections and vaccines in general. It's common, it happens, but it's very rare. And this whole notion or scare that maybe we should deal with aspirations is a falsehood, right? It's a falsehood. So it's just a pump fake. And this has gained more momentum due to Dr. John Campbell and his assertions that it's needed. And I don't want to give him too much attention or light on the situation because it's not just him. He may be saying some things to clear up the air, and people are just misconceiving it, taking his words, twisting it, and then selling it back to people, and they don't really understand what he's saying in the videos. Could be. Could be. But the point of the matter is simply this. Myocarditis is super rare. Super rare. So rare that we see where it's all happening at. And we deal with it on a case-by-case basis. Now, does it happen? Absolutely. We know that it happens. Per million dose usage. We saw how many cases come out of that. This is why I gave you 2 cohort studies that were done. We needed great science. We needed good science, solid science to retrieve the data from. I gave you slides that were hella supportive. Hella supportive. I gave you the numbers, and the numbers state this: that more people that are infected with SARS-CoV-2 have a higher risk of myocarditis than people vaccinated. So the reward outweighs the risk on so many different levels. And this only has picked, I said this earlier and I said again, this only picked up steam due to vaccine mandates and people making false claims, you know. So that's that on that. I gave you the expert homework. I gave you the data as it sits. If you have questions, comments, concerns, you can put them in the chat in the comment section of this particular video, or you can hit this link. Travis about to hit you with that 12 gauge. He said 130 pounds. Who was that? Pacquiao? I don't know. But hit the link, man. Join the discussion, man. People who have questions, comments, concerns. You're not gonna hear from Unc West. The Ravens lost. Well, he might be a little emotional about that. I sent him the link a few times. Of course, he ain't joined. You know what I'm saying? Pray for the Baltimore Ravens. Pray for the Baltimore Ravens. They got issues. Are you on a flag? Oh, it's on player. Hit that link though. Hit that link. So all these people in here, y'all ain't got no questions, comments, concern. I couldn't be that thorough. Yeah, Unc got the booster. But Nita, I would highly recommend you getting a booster based on the simple fact that someone in your household could be possibly immunocompromised. And I don't know what you're scared of because it's no big deal. You have less pain at the injection site, less reactions to any of the vaccine. It's easier this time around. Remember, I did a show on that where we went in and got through dealing with the CDC information. And from that data, they found that it was less complaints for all of those things. I'm not going to tell you not to get a booster. That's what I'm not going to tell anyone. And the booster actually work well against Omicron. So you'll be afforded some type of protection against it, especially if you don't work from home and you work in the public. CK, you ain't got no question. You would have already asked it. And I ain't about to, do 2 hours of talking. We had a minute. We had an hour and 8 minutes with 9 minutes. So if you got a question, please answer. Ask your question. Yeah, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Yeah, I ain't got time to be getting sick from nothing. Yep. Yeah, numbers don't lie. Javante Davis fighting Cruz tonight on Showtime. Is it on Showtime or Showtime pay-per-view? Here she go talking about patience. Man, I've been on this show for an hour and 10 minutes. You talking about some patience? She said my 18-year-old got Johnson & Johnson in August. He can get Moderna, right? Yes, he can get Moderna. He needs to get Moderna. They're going to tell him to get a second shot anyway. Moderna will be right for him. Robert Paris says, and Sean, Omicron variant origins. We don't know the origins. Too many countries aren't doing surveillance when it comes to tracking variants. So the first people to actually trace or track it was South Africa. But that doesn't mean that the origins is in South Africa. They were just the first to detect it, and they detected it, and then next thing you know, there was several other cases in the UK and around the world that followed behind it because people were beginning to look for it. The surveillance sucks on tracking variants, especially in the United States. We're 20th in the world in tracking. CK says, do you think if you had some adverse reactions on the first 2 shots that it will be issues on the third? No. I thought I said that earlier, but nah. On the third, you're not going to have no serious adverse reactions. Okay, show PPV. Cool. I'm going to just stick with Pfizer for my third. Yeah, you can stick with Pfizer on your third shot, or you can get Moderna. It really ain't even going to matter. You can be real scientific and get Johnson & Johnson. Let me see. I'm cheating. I got Cody. Ouch. No, I don't know what none of that stuff y'all be getting what y'all got. I either pay for it or I don't. Or I go to my brother's house. Who talking about it's a mutation? What you talking about, bro? Chavis, look, this let you know right here that Chavis didn't follow anything that's going on right now, because I pretty much answered the question. Look, he's saying just let him talk, y'all. Let him feel human about it. Next questions. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Robert Parrish, do you got the book What SARS-CoV-2 Taught Me? Come on now. If you ain't got the book, man, click on the link and get the book. It's right there in the video and in the description. Put out a lot of free work to help get people vaccinated and protected. The least y'all can do is go support the book, man. I promise you that your family members, friends, community would appreciate it. You can put them up on some information that'll be life-changing and life-saving. Ain't no wrong with the J&J, bro. It's just not as effective as Moderna. You can get J&J there's some scientists out there that are getting J&J as a booster because they want a different level of protection to go with the mRNA. But that's them. You know what I'm saying? I want that Moderna again. That Moderna where that Fi-Fi at. I've been your CNN the whole time. You need to get the book, bro. You get the book. You'll thank me later. So y'all enjoying the discussion? Is the sauce still alive? Christian Okoye. Atwater. Question: how much would a wood check wood with a wood check wood could check wood? I don't know, bro. No, Chavis, you behind on the video. I've already answered all the questions and I've already responded. You're just now commenting in the chat and you're behind on the video, bro. Chavis doesn't realize that he behind on the video. He's not live. I answered them questions like 10 minutes ago. When you start answering the questions, I've been answered. And that's sad too, because you think that you really answering the questions. And everybody laughing at you. Oh, yeah, well, I don't like competing with a SAR, you know what I'm saying? Y'all want to go over there and hang out with a SAR, y'all can, man, you know what I mean? Y'all can talk about the alpha male. Watch that efficacy of Moderna drop when that gamma variant drop. Wrong. Watch that P-Funk descend. Travis don't know what he doing. He trying to keep up with what Asai got going on. He's trying to go back and forth. Man, where these trolls coming from with this stupid? Don't nobody know what that means. See, Sute got to tell him, refresh your stream. You behind. He's super behind, bro. Let me see what I got here. Get your book here. Click that link in the chat. Get your book right here. What SARS-CoV-2 taught me, add it to the cart, shop. We'll get it out there to you ASAP. Like Rocky. Come on, man. Get your book. Deal with it. But all right, man. Look, man, I'm not going to hold y'all up. You know what I mean? The stand is still live, so I'm pretty sure that's more entertaining than learning about something that might kill you, right? On that note, man, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. We just dealt with myocarditis again in its entirety. Hope you enjoyed, learned something from it. Peace to all the vaccinated people out there.